Hello, and welcome to the Werewolf by Night podcast bonus show. This is your co-host, Matt Howell.
I'm your other host, Jacob Balcom.
Thanks for joining us this week, Patreon folks. We have some business to get to. We are acutely aware that the last episode ran long. We talked about a film, and we watched Fang Face actually, and then we talked about romance comics as a genre, and then Love Everlasting, which was totally worth it. But we really want the show to be digestible nuggets of goodness. So we've set a timer. We're diving in right now with our werewolf movie, and we have one recommendation each. We're going to try this format. We can recommend music, comics, or another film or a book we're reading, but just one recommendation each, and try and keep it around 30 to 35 minutes.
That's the goal.
I found this film we're talking about, Kibakichi, which came out in 2004. The full name in Japan was Kibakichi Bakko-yokaiden, and it was based loosely on a manga that was about a yokai, which is kind of the folk catch-all term for like trolls, goblins, gremlins, boogeymen, whatever you want to call that. In Japan, there's a very specific class of these creatures that are folkloric. And this is based on that manga that's about a samurai, a shape-shifting samurai that can turn into a werewolf, and he kind of wanders around and has awesome adventures, which I would love to read. This film was basically, he just took the samurai werewolf part, and the filmmaker made them whole cloth from that. So Jacob, talk about who made this, and get us into here.
Like you said, it's from 2004. It's directed by Tomoo Haraguchi. And yeah, I read the same thing, that it was based in name only, really, from this manga. And well, the film starts out with some narration or some really cool illustrations, and I'll read it just to set up the film. The narration was, a long time ago, humans, yokai, and nature lived in perfect harmony without interfering in each other's lives. But as time went by, humans forgot their fears and assembled a team to exterminate the yokai. The weakened yokai escaped deep into the mountains to avoid contact with the human world. Some yokai turned themselves into men, women, and the elderly to hide within the human world. So the film starts from that point. We see he's a Ronin, basically. We see our lone samurai, and we don't really know he's particularly a werewolf till much later in the film. We do see he has fangs, though, pretty early on. I think even in this first scene, to establish that he's not human, at least.
He's more Logan or James Howlett.
Yes, he's definitely.
So he has fangs. He's kind of feral. He's very vigorous and whatever, animalistic. But yeah. Unfortunately, of the 95-minute running time, we see him reveal himself as a yokai shape-shifting werewolf samurai in the last 15 minutes.
Yep. But it's a pretty good movie, and it's a pretty good movie for but then it hits that last 15 minutes and it becomes a great movie.
It becomes a film.
Film. Indeed.
So what was your exposure to yokai prior to this?
Just a little bit here and there from Japanese folklore. Parts of this were kind of like, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I remember like that anime show Inuyasha is kind of has a bit to do with this subject matter. But aside from that, just in Japanese folklore in general.
Okay.
What about you?
So there were these two films, I believe, in the 60s. One of them is called like Yokai Spook Warfare, and one of them is called Yokai, I can't remember what they're called, but they're kind of like Godzilla level, like all the yokai kind of, it's like a monster fest for kids. It was like a matinee kind of thing, which is really popular. And I think it's actually getting released from either the American Genre Film Archive or Vinegar Syndrome is releasing the the duology, I think, on Blu-ray, which is I highly recommend. They're super fun. But I have this book. I kind of got into them for a while. I'm into like folklore from the world. So this is the Book of Yokai. So yeah, I mean, if you're into Japanese stuff at all, you've probably encountered these and maybe not know what they were called. But like, there's the Kappa, which is the turtle man. It has like a turtle shell and like a turtleish face and hair. And there's one that's like a parasol that just has like human features. Like they get pretty weird. Like they have like people with like human faces on their torsos, and we saw some in this film that were like their nose is really, really long, like 3 feet long. So they're just kind of like these weird freak folk characters. And in this film, it's kind of, I mean, spaghetti westerns and samurai films cross over constantly. But this guy comes to this small town, and it's a mountain town, and there's basically gambling there. And the town seems to be overrun by yokai who are in human form. And there's an alliance between the yokai and the local people who are led by this one dude. I forgot his name, but like it's basically just a war against the yokai and the humans. And they're trying to wipe out the yokai and make it a human only world. And there's some weird stuff in there with some human slaves, and they feed on the humans. So when humans pass through town, like they'll gamble in the casino, and a lot of people who are like winning a lot, which is a threat to the house, they're like, "Oh, come down and check out this really nice room we have for you. You're a big whale," and they'll shove them into a room full of skulls and half-eaten bodies, and they'll get eaten by the yokai. They are flesh eaters.
Yeah, there's the leader of the yokai of this town is boss Onizo, and yeah, like half of these yokai kind of have this dream of existing peacefully with humanity, and I even think that's what the boss wants. And so yeah, he has an alliance forged with basically the yakuza, and who of course end up betraying him. But yeah, this Kibakichi, the Ronin, comes to town, and they're like, "Hey, just hang out with us here. You're one of us. You're a yokai as well. Come hang out with us in this town. See how we do things, and see what you think." And boss Onizo has a adopted human daughter, which is it's another story wrinkle in there.
Yeah, it's like a concubine, right? That kind of like melds the two families, the humans and the yokai. Like, it's not a very solid melding or agreement or whatever, but it's like essentially right. I mean, why does he have her?
I think he just kind of came across her. Her family had either died or had abandoned her, and he just adopted her. Like he's like, it's his adopted daughter, that he loves. And yeah, and so we learn a little bit more about Kibakichi, that he came from a village of yokai that were slaughtered by some humans because of some unknown way that Kibakichi had trusted them and had let them in, and they had betrayed him and killed, everyone in the town except him and this other woman named Anju, who comes and confronts him at some point. And from that point on, the Yakuza figures in this movie basically turn on the town with more modern weaponry. So the time period is really fluid.
Squishy.
So
they said it was early 1700s, but the weaponry that's presented is mid to late 1800s.
Yeah, it's a Gatling gun, which is around 1860 or something. And, grenades, which are much later. They're using like modern grenades from like World War I and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so it's a very fluid timeline. But the action kind of ramps up after the Yakuza kind of, betray the agreement and start hunting all of the yokai of the village. And basically just all leads up to this final battle at the end, which you finally get to see the transformation, and it's a great transformation sequence. And then once he's fully werewolf, it goes fucking bonkers cool. Like it just gets so awesome.
I was shocked that he didn't like. The film opens with a very like spaghetti western / samurai classic opening of like a Ronin, like you're saying, a masterless samurai who is wandering the roads, and he is confronted by a group of like 6 highwaymen. And so you get to see him dispatch these people. And there's all the classic Lone Wolf and Cub / Kill Bill, like arterial blood spray you would hope to see.
Yep.
But he doesn't become the wolf. Like you see his fangs, you see his feral element, but he doesn't fully reveal his yokai nature until the last 15 minutes of this 95-minute film. And that's my main beef with it. There's some beautiful stuff, like just like the cinematography, like just like a figure in the foreground and these trees blowing in the wind as he's like regarding this village, and before he approaches it and stuff like that. There's some beautiful stuff in here, but the pacing, for me, was all over the place. And the middle section just bogs down in
it really does.
Essentially what is like the mob versus the yokai, and just like arguing about terms or betraying, a supposed alliance that's going to be betrayed. And it's just it's freshened up by some flashbacks and the characters' histories and things like that. But really, this film comes alive in the last 15 minutes when this dude turns into this full-on fucking werewolf samurai, and wire work happens, and he's flying up in the air and slashing people's limbs off, and blood spraying everywhere, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. But that's the question at the heart of this is, would you recommend this movie that is fine and kind of cool, but a little slow paced until the last 15 minutes? Thank God it's a 95-minute film, so you're not waiting forever. But is the payoff in this film good enough to have watched the whole thing?
I have to land on no.
Actually, I know, right?
It's tough. So yesterday was Valentine's Day. So my wife and I went out to a 5-course meal, and I had steak and this, that, and the other. And I had a couple cocktails, and we came home and popped on the couch. And I was like, I got to watch this movie for the podcast. And Renee said, cool. And I rubbed her feet. She fell asleep immediately. And I put this on, and I'm not gonna lie, there was times where I was kind of nodding off here and there in the middle, like just a little bit, and it was kind of like, woo, wake up, Howell, come on, you're reviewing a film here, brother. And then the last half an hour I was into, and the last 15 minutes I was really into, like really into.
I know. I would, you're right. I would have to recommend, like, if you want to sit through the whole movie, great, it's fine. You're not going to be super bummed out that you did. But if you just want to fast forward to the last 15 minutes of the movie, you're not going to miss a ton, and you're going to have a fucking blast for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. I would, 100%. Read a synopsis of the plot and then fast forward to an hour and 20 minutes in and watch the last 15, 20 minutes.
Totally worth it.
Yep. Totally worth it. Unfortunately, this is not widely available. So I downloaded this from a site that shares torrents of obscure films. So I'm trying to figure out ethically, should I put the whole film up, or the last 15 minutes, a cut of the last 15 minutes up on a private YouTube channel for our Patreon supporters? I don't know yet.
I would think so, but that's all up to your own conscience and whether you want to do that. But if it's just for our Patreon people, I would think that's probably okay.
Are you leaning towards the entire film or just the last 20 minutes?
I think the last 20 minutes, just that.
I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think if you do an edit of the
commercially available, I would not do it. But you can't rent it through Amazon or Apple or anything like that. You just can't get it.
No, if you can't, if there's no viable way for you to pay for this, because we would want you to pay for it, obviously. But since there's no way to do that, I don't feel bad about sharing the last 15 minutes of this just with Patreon people so they can dig it, because they'll totally dig it. It's awesome.
Cool. So this will be for the Moonbeast, like the video level, right? Moonbeasts and Pack Brothers and Sisters.
That's right.
Okay. So the climactic conclusion of Kibakichi Bakko-yokaiden will be available in a link through Patreon. And you can watch the climactic ending, which kicked fucking ass. And good God, if the whole movie had been this way, I would have had my hand down my pants watching it.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited for people to see this so we can chat about it on the Patreon messages.
Yeah. And yeah, what do you think about checking out the sequel, which came out the same year? So they basically cranked these out. Should we bother?
I think we should wait a while.
Offline
then,
or
yeah. I think we should wait and maybe revisit it.
Okay. So my bottom line would be obviously the ending is the best part, but I thought some of the cinematography, the acting is not standout great, but I mean it's meant to be a period piece that's very stoic and kind of you know like paintings on a wall in an old house or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
it's not a bad movie. It's not at all.
It just was it was a little disappointing that it was in the same way that Phantom Menace is like, wow, so we're talking about like tariffs, like because I remember good and evil and
I know. No, it wasn't that bad, but it was just the pacing was just really uneven, and I just think that it's one of those, like, sometimes out of all the werewolf films we've watched, sometimes you'll see a film where the transformation doesn't take place until the very end, and very rarely that works. I'm not saying it's never worked. It's worked a few times, but most of the time it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not Montgomery Clift, right? And From Here to Eternity. It's not like you're this great boxer. Oh, he boxed. I don't box anymore. I killed somebody once.
Yeah.
Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, at the end he boxes. Like it's the guy just saying like, you're yokai, you get it, right? And it's like, no, he has sharp teeth.
Yeah.
He's not yokai. Oh shit, he's yokai at the very, very end. So that was frustrating. But ultimately I liked it. I would not recommend it freely to people who don't dig into this stuff at all. So we'll just put the last act, I guess, up on Patreon. Thank you everybody for supporting us. See what we're doing out here? God's work. Yokai's work.
So what do you have to recommend for us otherwise this week?
So I read, I backed, are you a fan of Jeff Smith?
From Bone? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've read, a large portion of Bone.
Okay.
Back in the day. I don't know if I'm familiar with any of his other stuff.
Okay. I love Jeff Smith. And if you haven't read Bone, folks, it's basically Pogo meets Lord of the Rings, which is one of the most beloved series from the 90s, I would say.
Yeah.
You can get it in a giant Bible version that's all black and white, super thin, like rice paper thin pages. But he went back and actually added color to all these and did them in smaller editions for like Scholastic or something. Either way, it's great. And it's been in development hell for like 20 years. It's one of those things where it's like, they're just going to make a series or a film about it because it's like so beloved. I mean, it's just this epic, it's a love letter to Tolkien and everything. I mean, but it's with cartoony, simple characters. So, after that, huge acclaim, which is like one Eisner's up the ass. He did a sci-fi heist noir series called Rassel, ARSL, which is about a guy who uses essentially like hyperspace and like a portal leaping to do these art heists. Fascinating stuff. Came out in 3 volumes, I think, and you can get the omnibus for relatively cheap. I highly recommend that. And I supported this new thing he's done, which is based on a webcomic he started several years ago, and it's called Tuki. And the thing I kickstarted was 2 volumes. It's Tuki Fight for Fire and Volume 2, Tuki Fight for Family. And I got Fight for Fire, and it is this black and white, long form, like this, story about humans at the earliest stages of evolution. So he's kind of done the same thing with Bone, where it's like, built this whole world out in this adventure. And he said it was inspired by the fact that he realized that when he was touring some site, I think in Africa, that there were different levels of the human evolution. Like the bumper sticker that you see of humans evolving is not actually true. They actually coexisted at several points in time. And so he's kind of created this stage where there's like the habiline, the Pithecine, and the Homo erectus. They all did actually cross over at points in time. So the characters that we're following, like Tuki and some of the other more evolved people, actually have fire. But some of the less advanced people think that that's a sin and it's a crime. So they're kind of considered like, anathema to human life. And like there's this great sequence in here about the character Tuki who's hunting. Like it's awesome because you realize like they're always like his stomach's always growling, like while he's just like trying to find like the bones of like a animal, and there's like vultures feeding, and he'll be sneaking up on it through the grass, and then like a lion will come up and eat, and like his stomach just growls, like setting off other animals. Like the human survival at this point was fucking awful, right?
Yeah.
Like you were constantly starving. But he meets this this ape-like habiline, which is the previous person, and he blows this dust into his face. And much like Terrence McKenna or something, the ape thing is kind of like, so we can speak now. You and I understand each other. And this weird spiritual thing happens where he kind of drifts up like an astral form, almost like Doctor Strange. And the apey kind of primitive ape is like his eyes roll back in his head, and he gets this really weird like statuesque pose, and his voice changes to the way they kind of show it. He's like, "You should not be having the fire, Tuki," and like he just like gives him this message from the gods and
That's
telling
awesome.
him like, you're crossing a line that was never meant to be crossed. You and your kind were never meant to have this power. So at the point that I'm at, I'm almost done with it, but the first volume, the second volume is coming out in a few months. The shipping issues, they were supposed to come together, but you can get them both printed at the same time. But so he's just encountered some other Homo erectus, like youths that were out and kind of abandoned, essentially. So this guy, apparently he was the webcomic lead, Tuki. He's like the main character that was in the webcomic, and this is a totally different thing that is branched off from that. That's awesome. 2 different stories. So I love it so far. Absolutely love it. If you like Jeff Smith, can't recommend this enough.
Oh, that sounds awesome. No, I'll definitely check that out. Okay.
Come on, Balcom.
Nice. All right.
That's a lot of wipes.
It's a lot of wipes. So my recommendation this week, someone I've listened to a ton during the pandemic, it is Ukulele Ike, who's also known as Cliff Edwards. This is my favorite record of his. It was put out by Yazoo, and it has a Crumb cover.
Yeah, I can see her body, so I know it's Crumb.
Yes, exactly. It's called "I'm a Bear in a Lady's Boudoir," and wow. So I'll try and do a quick synopsis of Cliff Edwards' career. So, he kind of went by the name of Ukulele Ike a lot of the times. He started out in the early jazz age. Like, I think he was in one of the maybe 3rd or 4th jazz band to ever be recorded. I think in like 1920 or 1919.
When was he born?
He was. He was born. Yeah, probably around 1900. Yeah, maybe a little earlier actually. And he became a huge star. Like, and he was basically like a ukulele crooner. And but he was just so unique and cool. And he was this huge star of the jazz age. And he had all these hits in the early to the late 20s. But he also just lived totally high on the hog. He would make a ton of money and spend it. He had multiple divorces, crazy amounts of bankruptcies. And the song of his that I really got into over the pandemic was called "I'll See You in My Dreams," which I think was written by Isham Jones. But his version of it, I love so much.
Though the days are long, twilight sings a song of the happiness that used to be. Soon my eyes will close, and I'll find repose, and in dreams you're always near to me. I'll see you in my dreams, hold you in my dreams. Someone took you out of my arms, still I feel the thrill of your charm.
So that was his first career. His second career, kind of starting in the 30s, was he sang a lot of blues songs. He would do a lot of like kind of naughty for that time period songs, but obviously not naughty at all now. Songs like I'm a Bear in a Lady's Boudoir, Paddlin' Madeline Home, I'm Gonna Give It to Mary with Love.
I am just a bashful boy in love with Mary Green. She is really the sweetest gal that I have ever seen. I've always lacked the courage to even squeeze her tight, but I've resolved to do my stuff when I see her tonight. I'm gonna give it to Mary with love. I've got something that she's fondest of. Now I know that she has had it before, and Mary's a gal that all the fellas adore. I'll let her take it right in her hand.
And they're basically, I mean, they're naughty songs, but they're all just double entendres. They're just all built around double entendres, which I love and think are hilarious. But that's his second career. His third career, after he was totally washed up as a singer, his records had sold millions. He was selling nothing. Yes.
Was that second career considered novelty?
Yeah, definitely. Well, he sang a lot of novelty stuff anyways, but So that would be.
Where would one get a blue record in that era?
They would be under the counter at your record shop. Yeah, you had to ask for them, or you had to, know a guy or something, or have some kind of weird handshake, and then you'd get them. They would be at more disreputable dealers of records. But
okay.
But and these are all 78s we're talking about here too,
Sure.
because it's 30s.
Lacquer porn.
Yeah, lacquer porn indeed. So his third career after he was washed up is that he became a voice actor. Most famously, he was the voice of Jiminy Cricket in Pinocchio. And
Wow.
He won the Oscar for singing When You Wish Upon a Star. And what's so great is that I always love trying to tell people this, but Jiminy Cricket, I'm like, oh man, he loved his heroin, right? like, he was just the hardest partying guy ever. And so, yeah, he won the Oscar for that, but his career was kind of on the downswing at that point, and he had just drank himself into oblivion. He had a few more voice acting roles. He had a few roles on early Mickey Mouse Club. He would just show up in Disney stuff every now and then because, sadly enough, basically he would just, after winning the Oscar for Jiminy Cricket, he would just go to the Disney studios and just like hang out on the lot every day, just sitting around, talking to people, playing his ukulele, hoping just that they'd be like, okay, Cliff, come on, we got a scene.
We need you for this thing.
We need you for this thing. And they did that, up until about the 50s. And then they just kind of stopped doing it. They didn't really have anything.
When was Pinocchio made?
Pinocchio was made in 1940, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, in the 50s and 60s, he would make a record every once in a while. But he just lived hard, and he did not die young. He died very old. I think he died in 1971. So he was in his late 70s when he died. And he died penniless in a charity hospital for old actors. Well, that was the other thing he did in the 30s. He was in a lot of like little films, like Westerns and other things. He did a short film with Buster Keaton. Him and Buster Keaton were really good friends. And so, yeah, he was kind of in like a Hollywood charity hospital and died, and no one claimed the body. So they donated it to science, to a university, until someone who was a fan of his, like, shamed Disney Studios into like buying him a headstone.
Jesus.
And so they bought
Where? At Hollywood Forever or whatever?
Yeah, it's somewhere. Yeah, it's somewhere right around there. And you can go, and it's it has a little thing of Jiminy Cricket on it and stuff. But yeah, kind of a sad end, but he's awesome. Like, I just love everything about him. I highly recommend you. There's a YouTube video of him singing a song with a woman who was sitting with him smoking a cigarette, who was a sleight of hand artist, who was a very famous magician. And she does this trick where she's smoking cigarettes, throws it away, and then like pulls it out from different parts of like out of his pocket, out from behind his thing. And it's still lit. And she just takes a drag and then throws it away.
I watched it.
Did you watch it? How does she fucking do that? It's so crazy.
Have you looked for solutions?
No, I mean, I just read a little bit of her bio, and she was a master at sleight of hand.
Her name's Wanda.
Fuck, I can't remember. Yeah,
You know the
but
first name, right?
yeah, no, her name's Wanda is her name. But yeah, she's so cool. I think it was Wanda Sykes. You're right. But no, he's really, really cool, and I highly recommend listening to his music. And most of his stuff is streaming on most of the platforms. And yeah, just a guy that I really kind of leaned on for during the pandemic. His songs really, I don't know if you've ever decided. I decided that I want "I'll See You in My Dreams" played at my funeral. You know, you have to choose a funeral song because someone will fucking choose it for you if you don't, and that's a nightmare to me. That's the last time. I mean, I want control of the music at my final remembrance.
I've been working on that.
Yeah, no, mine's "I'll See You in My Dreams" by Cliff Edwards.
Well, I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Because your wife is.
Yeah. No, I know. No, you're the executor of my estate, so
okay.
you have to make that happen.
Mine's "Turn On Your Radio" by Harry.
By Nilsson. Oh, that's a great song. Oh, that's great. Okay, I'll make sure Renee does that. I'll fight her for it. I
got a playlist going. You know.
Yeah.
My mom gleefully told me that she wants Bill Withers. "Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone" played at her funeral. I was like, you understand that you choosing to play that there is kind of a weird choice, right?
Yeah, that's weird. That's super weird.
Like, it's not a message from beyond the grave. It's you saying this is how you should feel now that I'm dead.
Yeah.
Not Jewish, by the way. She's Catholic. So
all right. Well, that's what are you going to do? Lady. That is a complicated woman.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. So he liked the junk.
He loved the junk, loved the liquor. He lived high on the fucking hog.
And he died at 70.
Yeah, 76 probably, I think was when he died. Okay. And yeah, you know.
What was his so you said like he was on early jazz records from like 1920.
Yeah.
With the uke.
Yeah,
what was he playing?
He actually did some really early, like kind of, and he would continue to do this in his career, but it wasn't like, it was a proto form of scatting. It was just kind of using his voice as like a goofy, like kazoo type thing.
Okay.
He was in a band, I think, called Lads Black Aces, but you know, I don't look up any of that stuff. It gets a little dicey.
Blackface?
No, not quite, but I think there is some of that.
Might as well be minstrel.
It might as well be. I mean, it's coming from the minstrel tradition, so I'm like,
sure.
Yeah, just try not to look for that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, and I mean, yeah, with everyone back then, there's definitely going to be problematic stuff. But
that comes with the territory.
That comes with the territory. As anyone who loves old stuff knows, you gotta pick your battles and make your peace with some stuff. And
yeah. I've been watching Little House on the Prairie as comfort viewing, and Victor French, his character Mr. Edwards, is one of my all-time favorite characters, and his recurring theme, he sings it, and then whenever he's on, it's always a variation on Old Dan Tucker. And I dove into that song and the history of that, and that's problematic.
No. Yeah. Yep. Just It's funny. There's like a level that you should dig to, and then just like not just like step away.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, we like to dig.
Yeah. So cool. I need to check that guy's stuff out. Who pressed that one that had the crumb cover?
It's Yazoo.
Who's
Yeah,
it really?
yeah. What was Yazoo Records?
Alison Moyer?
Yeah,
Oh, that's Yaz.
yeah.
Upstairs at Eric's.
No, Yazoo Records produced a lot of would do a lot of blues and jazz comps. I think starting in the '60s. I think that one's from the late '60s or the early. I don't know. No, it's probably from the
I
early
think it's
'70s.
early mid '70s.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's mid '70s because of the Crumb cover. But I think Yazoo. I think Crumb's band was on Yazoo too.
Okay.
The Cheap Suit Serenaders.
Right. I have one of those.
Yeah.
A friend of ours
So,
gave me. All right. Well, I like this whole shorter thing. I loved
too.
talking about romance comics with you, but I really felt like as I was editing last bonus episodes, like this should be 2 episodes.
I know. Yeah.
So I'm glad we're stopping at around 35
we got so
minutes.
excited though.
Oh yeah. No, I love it, man. And it made me like Google image search a bunch of romance stuff. And I added a bunch of different covers
You did.
in
You did
there.
a great job editing that.
I had a great time with that. I love it. So cool. So the new sign off is
may your fur always bristle in the moonlight.
stay furry, friends. Did I do that right?
Yeah, you did it right.
Well, then that's the bonus. How? Yeah. How would your buddy do it?
That is really what he does. Just I'm gonna
Let's get some heroin, get some hookers and pussy. You haven't tried cocaine yet. It's really good.